All right, so if you watched last week's video, we talked about the 5 steps to personal preparedness, where you pick a disaster, you pick something you want to prepare for, and then you go through all 5 steps to make sure that you're truly prepared for that event. Well, today I got a bunch of free printouts that you can print out to help you come out with a plan, help you have proper information so that you can do a lot of those things that we talked about last week. And so Minnesotagov, now I know Minnesota, I live in Minnesota, you probably don't, but everything I have here I think would apply to literally everyone. Okay, so even though this is Minnesota specific, all of this is still really helpful, and I will link it in the description box down below. But the 4 things they think everybody needs to do is they need to make a kit, make a plan, be informed, and get involved. And so the kit, they have a list here, and then they have a deeper list, which we'll go through the deeper list. And then they also have an emergency evacuation kit. And the example they give is if the fire department knocked on your door at 2 a.m. and you had 2 minutes to leave now, what would you take with you? Okay, and then there's a link you can click on for the list. We'll go over that list. Next, they want you to make a plan, and we're going to go over a bunch of resources for that. Be informed. So what are some of the things that you should be prepared for? So here in Minnesota, the list that they have is active shooter, bioterrorism, chemical emergencies, cybersecurity, explosions, hazardous materials, home fires, household chemical emergencies, landslides, natural disasters including tornadoes, nuclear blasts, nuclear power plants, and pandemic health hazards. So those are just some of the things that living in Minnesota, they feel that we should prepare for, right? We should have a plan in place. We should have our preparations and our gear and our equipment needed to take care of these situations. And then the last one is get involved. And the reason getting involved is important, not just making videos like this, but in your neighborhood, right? You might have a plan. And your plan might be, in this situation, we're going to get in our vehicles and we're going to head to wherever, right? Everybody else in your town might not have a plan, and they might just be gathered out into the streets wondering what the heck they're supposed to do. They might be driving around aimlessly wondering where to go, and they're in your way and they're causing traffic jams, and everything is just pure chaos because you're the only one that had a plan. Right? And so making sure that you get involved and you make sure that your neighbors are ready, what are your neighbors going to do? Make sure that you can get to where you want to go without pure chaos. You know what I mean? And so getting involved is a good way to just make sure that the plan you put in place still works even when everybody else is doing their own thing, right? And so let's go over make a kit. So they have a list. They have a general list on there, but this is the deeper list. And so you need drinking water, 1 gallon per person per day, and that is for drinking, cooking, and sanitation. Okay, so that 1 gallon needs to serve a large variety of purposes, not just drinking, not just cleaning up. It needs to do all 3. And so number 2 is extra non-perishable food, a 3-day supply. All these things they suggest a 3-day supply because 3 days usually is enough time for the storm to pass. It's enough time for you to get to where you're going. It's enough time for them to clear the roads, clear things up so that you can escape. Flashlight and spare batteries. Flashlight and spare batteries is really important because even though yes, emergencies don't just happen during the day. It could be the middle of the night and you need a flashlight. Also, if there's a storm, right? If it's a severe thunderstorm, cloud cover there's going to be no sunlight. The clouds are going to make it pitch black as well. And it's going to be very dark just because of the cloud cover. And if the power goes out, you're stuck in the dark. Or if you're safe place, if you're sheltering in place and you're in your basement and the power goes out, it might be bright and sunny outside, it's still pitch black in your basement, right? So make sure you have access to a flashlight and extra batteries all the time, right? Even if it's the middle of the day, grab that flashlight. Make sure that flashlight's always a part of your kit. A whistle. Whistles are very important because the sound travels farther than your voice does. So more people, you're going to get more people's attention. Also, screaming, hollering, shouting, you're going to lose your voice, right? You're going to lose your voice, and you're not going to be able to scream and shout and holler anymore. And so if you're screaming and no one's hearing you, and then you lose your voice, no one's going to be able to find you. So having a whistle that you can use for a long, long time before you can't, you can probably use it indefinitely if you are really panicked about it. When your adrenaline kicks in, you can probably blow that whistle no matter what. But screaming and shouting, you lose your voice, it's not a good time. Toolkit. You need to make sure that you can shut your utilities off. You don't want a bad situation getting worse because a pipe bursts in your basement and now your house is flooding. You don't want a propane leak making a bad situation worse. Being able to shut off those utilities is very important. Also, if a tree goes down over your driveway, you need to be able to process that tree, get it out of the way so that you can leave. If something damages your garage, right, being able to have pry bars and different things to get the garage off your vehicle, again, so you can leave, is important. Make sure you have a good toolkit that can accomplish a lot of different tasks. First aid kit, again, a lot of things happen, right? And there can be broken glass inside your home, outside your home. A lot of people walk around their house barefoot, and we'll get to that. And so make sure that you have a first aid kit that can handle sprains, bruises, if somebody falls or if something falls on somebody, and there's lots of different things that could happen. Nails, puncture your hand. There's lots of different things that can happen that you're not thinking about because, again, you're safe inside your home until you're not, right? N95 dust mask or respirator, and then there's an emergency thing here where it says the N95 respirator masks are not approved for chemicals or gas in the air, such as carbon monoxide, and will not protect you from them. Which is true, okay? The N95 mask isn't going to protect you from gases, and so some people would say you need a proper gas mask that's going to filter out all of that, which is a double-edged sword, right? The N95 mask isn't going to protect you from the chemicals, but you're easily going to be able to detect them, right? If you smell propane, that's explosive. You need to get out of there, right? If you have a gas mask on and it's filtering out literally everything, and you don't smell that propane, then you move something and it sparks or an ember kicks up and it explodes, it's not a good day for you. And so being able to have all five senses to determine the danger in your area is very important. But if the danger is the chemical, having a proper gas mask is important too. And so you need to kind of weigh out which one is better for your personal needs. Plastic garbage bags. A roll of plastic garbage bags can serve a multitude of uses, including gathering debris, cleanup, waterproof cover, poncho, or even serve as an emergency toilet. Okay, so make sure you have lots of bags because, again, you're not going to have modern conveniences. If your house fell down because of a storm or a tornado, you're not going to have access to a lot of the things that you take for granted in normal day, right? Next is extra shoes and work gloves. Like I said before, a lot of people walk around barefoot, so make sure you have shoes that you don't want sandals, you don't want Crocs, you don't want flip-flops, you want real shoes that are going to be able to walk on glass, walk on debris, and not damage your feet. You're going to want work gloves. Again, so like winter gloves are going to keep your hands warm. So if it's the middle of winter, those big puffy gloves are going to keep your hands really warm, but if you grab debris or you're cleaning or working with them, they're going to rip to shreds. And then they're not going to keep your hand safe, and they're not going to keep your hand warm. Or work gloves, you're going to be able to work with them, you're going to be able to grab debris, you're going to be able to grab hot things, you're going to be able to get a lot more work done, but they're not going to keep your hands warm. And so then you have to worry about frostbite and different things. And so make sure that you have different gloves for different seasons. You need warm work gloves, you need breathable work gloves, you need a lot of different things for a lot of different seasons, so keep that in mind. Same thing, you might need winter boots for the winter and hiking boots for the summer. Make sure that you just, again, think outside the box and think about the seasons. And then a battery-powered radio. And the reason the radio is so important is because a storm, again, I keep going back to a storm, but the storm could take out the power lines. You have no power, which means no internet, no way of charging anything. They can take out the cell phone towers. With no cell phone towers, you can't call anybody. Even an uprooted tree. A tree comes out of the ground and there was a internet cable and it takes out that internet cable. There's so many different things that could happen that just make your phone not work or make your internet on your computer not work. And so being able to have a radio uses just air, right? A lot of times the NOAA weather, if there's an emergency, they'll broadcast that emergency and they'll make sure that you're doing whatever you need to do. The local radio stations will kick on and say, hey, you need to stay in your shelter. Even though everything is perfect outside, they'll let you know you're in the eye of the storm, right? It hasn't passed yet. You're just in the eye of the storm and you need to get ready for round 2, right? Having that information allows you the opportunity to think ahead, plan ahead, and do what you need to do. Where a lot of times you see it, people endure the storm, it gets better, and then they start evacuating, they start leaving, right? Because their house is buried, and then the second wave comes because it hadn't passed them, they were just in the eye, and then they're in even more danger because now they're in a vehicle and not in their basement. So make sure that you have a way of getting that information that isn't dependent on your phone. All right, so what if the fire department knocks on your house at 2 a.m. and tells you got 2 minutes to get the heck out of there? These are some things to consider. All right, so the basics are money. Money is very important. And the way I think about it is like if you go on vacation, right? Vacation is really expensive, but you always got to make sure that you plan for all the little things. Like you got to plan for the hotel room. You got to plan for the arcade, if your kids are going to play in the arcade. You got to plan for eating out all the time. You got to plan for the gas, driving all around. There's all these little expenses that come up when you go on vacation. Well, if you get kicked out of your house, all those little expenses are still going to be there. What are your kids going to do? What are you going to eat? What are you going to do, right? How are you going to get gas? Make sure you have money to pay for all that stuff. Next, you need to have identification. And not just a driver's license. A driver's license is going to get you really far, or a state ID can get you really far. It'll get you a hotel room. It'll get you whatever it is you need. But also make sure that you have all the identification you need, because in case something bad happens at your home and you lose your birth certificate, your social security card, and everything's in that house, and that house just burnt down, make sure you have the stuff you need so that you can go get a new one. Right? You can go get a new birth certificate, a new social security card, a new wedding certificate, a new whatever it is. Have that identification with you. A cell phone charger, just because your cell phone doesn't work here doesn't mean it's not going to work anywhere. And so being able to charge that phone and get to a place that does have coverage, does have internet, make sure you have that available. Medications, bottled water and snacks. Eyeglasses, contact lenses, and supplies. So if you got to take care of your eyes. If you're elderly, consider adding dentures or hearing aid batteries. If you have an infant, consider adding formula, diapers, and bottles. If you have a pet, consider adding extra food and water, because again, your pets can't come into the restaurant with you, right? So you got to have food and water and stuff to take care of your pets. Collar with ID, leashes or pet carriers, and plastic bags to clean up after them. So if you're going to evacuate, you might want to have a kit that includes all this stuff on hand. Now let's move into making a plan. Okay, so when it comes to making a plan, there isn't a lot of printouts that I thought was for everyone. There's a lot of like tornado. Well, not everyone's going to experience a tornado, or there's a lot of weather things. But some of the things I did print out that I thought was important is this family emergency phone list. And so what this does, in case of an emergency, call 911, obviously. Home phone number. I couldn't tell you where my phone is right now, honestly. I never know where my phone is. I don't like my phone. I avoid it as much as possible. And so for a home phone number, I don't have a landline, but I'm putting Caroline's number. If somebody needs to get a hold of us, if somebody needs to get a hold of someone, they should probably call Caroline, because I'm not going to answer, and chances are I'm not checking my phone either. And then again, our name, so Corey, Caroline, cell phone, and work. A lot of people don't put their work phone number. They're like, just call my cell phone. Just call my cell phone. Well, I don't know about you, but every job I've had, you're not allowed to have your cell phone on you while you're working, right? Or if you do have it on you, it's on silent because you're not supposed to have it on you. And so you don't know when you're getting called. You don't know what's happening, and you're not going to know until you're on break, right? Having the work number means you can call my work and say, hey, this is an emergency. I need Corey to call me as soon as possible. They can get a hold of me. I can then call them right now, right? And so that's still important to have a work phone number. Relatives or neighbors. Now this is important because everybody, okay, if they can't get a hold of Caroline, they call me, and then I let Caroline know who she needs to call and who she needs to get in contact with, right? But who do I call, right? If I don't know where Caroline is, who do I call? There's like 50 people that can call me and I can help them. But of those 50 people, who can I call? Which one of them, do I have to call all 50 of them every single time? So having a relative or neighbor for me and Caroline, one for both of us, usually it's a work friend, right? And so if Caroline's supposed to be home from work and she's not, I can call that person and that person can let me know there was a thing that came up and she's not allowed to leave until the project's done, right? Well, that makes sense because I know for me anyway, if I'm not allowed to leave until the project's done, the only thing I'm thinking about is that project. I'm like, we got to get this thing done. I'm not thinking about calling Caroline. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm thinking about what do I need to do to get this project done so I can get the heck out of here, right? And so being able to have a work friend that I can call and she can fill me in on those things, or she left an hour ago, but she said she had to go grocery shopping first. Oh, okay, she's probably just grocery shopping. It's going to probably be another little bit before she gets home, right? You have that information, and she needs that same thing for me, right? Next is address. This is one of those things where in an emergency situation, a lot of times your mind goes blank, right? Their brain farts, it's on the tip of my tongue, it's, you know what I mean? And when you're put on the spot, when you're in a high stress situation, you forget basic things, right? And like your address, you don't think about your address hardly ever, right? And so having it written down here, if I'm calling 911, I can give them my address. I can just read it off. I don't have to think about it. It's just right here, right? And then a family meeting place, having the name of that place and the address and phone number so that if I'm not here and it looks like something bad happened, we can get a hold of that place, whether it's a church or a gas station or a restaurant or a park or whatever it is. Having the name of the place, the address, and the phone number is very important. And then here we have a kids one. It's essentially the same, but I like this one better because for kids, in the top here it says, in an emergency, always call 911. It's okay, right? It's okay, I feel is very important because if my son called 911 right now, he'd get in trouble, like big trouble. He is not to call 911. 99% of the time, if he calls 911, he's in big, big trouble. And then kids associate that where if I call 911, I'm going to get in trouble. If I call 911, my dad's going to be mad, my mom's going to be mad, everyone's going to get mad at me, and so they don't want to do it. But in case of an emergency, it's okay, right? If I'm having a heart attack and I'm on the ground and I'm not responding and he's scared and he doesn't know who to call, he can call 911 and it's okay, right? And so it's a little thing, but it's important to explain that if it's a real emergency, it's okay to call 911. Next is my home phone number is, and so that's going to be his phone number. He doesn't have a phone yet, but when he does, usually it's my phone or Caroline's phone, but when he does, that'll be his number, and then mom, selling work, dad, selling work, grandma and grandpa, and other relatives. There's 3 spots here. I want 3 people that he can call and ask for help or guidance or whatever he needs, but I want those same 3 people, I want the police to be able to call them, right? So if something bad happens, and he's home alone, and the police show up, they should be able to call mom, dad, or any 3 of these numbers, and any of these 5 people should be able to drop what they're doing and come get him. Or they should be able to drop him off with any one of those 5 people, and it should be perfectly fine, right? And so the police officers aren't stuck wondering what to do with this kid, right? Like, what do we do with this kid? One of these 5 people will be able to pick him up, or you can drop him off, or right? So you need to make sure that these aren't just 3 family friends or 3 people that will probably help him. Make sure that these are all people that will take him and take care of them. I'm saying him because I have a son, but take care of your kids when the time comes. I live at, again, that's this address, so that, again, if he has to call the police, he has that address. And then good family meeting spot, again, name, address, phone number. If the house is on fire and he needs to get the heck out of here, right? He needs to be able to let the fire department know where the fire is, which is this place, and he needs to be able to tell the police where he is, right? So the fire department can come straight here, the police can go there, and they can take care of him, the fire department can take care of the house, and everybody's taken care of. And so having this, I think, is really important. Next is the Family Emergency Plan. This is from FEMA. Again, this was linked from the Minnesotagov, but this is actual FEMA. And this is the same thing, but it's like way more in depth. And so you have neighborhood meeting place, out of neighborhood meeting place, out of town meeting place, and then name, date of birth, social security number, and important medical information for everybody in the family. Work location 1, address, phone, evacuation location. Workplace 2, workplace 3, school location 1, address, phone, evacuation location, school location 2, 3, other frequent workplaces or other frequent or places you frequent, I should say, address, phone, evacuation location. So again, if you go to church every Sunday, have an evacuation location so that everybody's on the same page. Everybody's informed. Down here you have name, telephone number, and policy number. Again, this is going to be your insurance, car insurance, home insurance, renter's insurance, whatever insurance you have, you want that policy number so that people don't think you're just a random person trying to get money, right? You have a real policy number, you're a real customer, you've been paying for a long time, and now you need their help, right? And then the next page is a little cutout that you can put in your wallet or your purse or whatever and have on your person. And so if you need that information, it's on you and ready to go. I got 2 more things. This is prepare your pets for disaster. So this goes through, again, the kit, the plan for a pet. And so again, this is pet related. Not everyone has a pet, so I'm not going to dive into it. This is Make a Plan Minnesota. Now this is really interesting. This really opened my eyes. This is for caregivers and caretakers. So making sure that the person taking care of your kid is prepared, right? And so comfort items and routines, medical and other special needs, child care and school, spiritual, faith-based, and other important communication content, legal matters, all of this stuff. If I were to have a heart attack and my kid goes to grandma and grandpa's house, I know how to get him to school from my house, but how is he going to get to and from grandma and grandpa's house? To school, from grandma and grandpa's house? I don't know. I really don't, right? When does he eat lunch? When does he eat dinner? He's in Cub Scouts, right? What is his Cub Scout schedule? How do you go to and from Cub Scouts? Where do they have to meet, right? If something happens to me and I end up in the hospital and I can't take care of them and my parents are taking care of them, I need to make sure that they understand what they need to do so they're not just making it up as they go. They're not just lost in the weeds, not knowing anything, right? Being able to prepare the caretaker, or if it's a family friend. If a family friend's going to come and take your kid, do they know what their blanket is, what their stuffed animal is, their comfort item? Do they know what medicines they need? Do they know when the bedtime is, when lunch and dinner is? Do they know their daily routine? Do they know their Cub Scout schedule? Do they know how they're going to get them to and from school? Do they know their faith base? Like if the kid wants to sit down and pray, does your family friend know what that means or what that consists of, or you know what I mean? being able to get them prepared, get them ready so that your kid can have as comfortable of experience as possible, even though they're going through a traumatic event. And so I found this very interesting. I had never really thought about that before. And so in the comment section down below, I want to know what you thought about this video. Is this something that you're into? Are you glad these resources exist? Let me know, and I can't wait to see you on my next video.